what God says. God sent the prophet and he said, look, we need to go over this again because obviously you didn't get it the first time, and now I've been here again. He said, think back in your history. Why did the covenant come in the first place? He said it was because when my people, the people that I chose, remember, I chose you. It wasn't that you chose me. He said, I chose you, and I am the one who brought you out of Egypt. I'm the one who brought you across the Red Sea. I'm the one who destroyed the nation of Egypt's army when they tried to follow, when they tried to pursue. And once you were on the other side, I had Moses lead you to Mount Sinai, and there I established my covenant. I laid down what my laws and decrees were to be, and as long as you remain obedient to those, I will bless you. I will bless you with an inheritance, and your inheritance will be your own land. Now remember that the people until that point had been nomads. They had lived in tents. They never had their own solid structure to call their own home. They didn't own their own businesses. They always had to work for somebody else, with the exception of maybe owning some flocks and herds. But God now told them, I'm going to bring you into the promised land, and I am going to bless you. As long as you remain obedient to me, I will bless you. You will have your own land. You will have your own homes. Your families will grow. You will be a prosperous nation, and my hand and my favor will rest upon you. And the whole world will know me through you. Well, the people had forgotten that, so he says, okay, now look, you've just left Babylon and you've come back. Think about the parallel, he says. Think about this. When the people were in Egypt, they cried out to me. I heard their cry, and I saved them from bondage in Egypt. I rescued them. I restored them. You cried out when you were in Babylon. I heard your plea. I reached out my hand, and I rescued you. I restored you as my people, and I brought you back to the promised land. So now that I brought you back to the promised land, he says, let's go over it again, because I just don't think you're getting it. I want to give this to you. I want so much for you to be my chosen people, and I want you to have this land. But it is contingent on your obedience. You need to remain obedient, and as long as you do, this land will be yours, and I will bless you throughout eternity, as long as you remain obedient. Well, another trap that they fell into was that they felt they were the chosen people. And anybody outside that chosen people, well, they just really weren't welcome. Well, remember when God blessed Abraham with his covenant? He said, I will bless you, and he didn't stop there. You see, most of the time, the chosen people fell into that trap of hearing that, I will bless you. God said he's going to bless me. How awesome! What a great thing! But it didn't stop there. God said, I will bless you so that you will be a blessing, and through you all the nations of the world will be blessed. He said, that's why I'm bringing you out. I didn't choose you just purely to bless you, and that's the end of the story. I chose you to bless you so that you would be a blessing to everyone else by helping them to come to know and understand who I am and how much I want for them to be in a relationship with me. So remember, I chose. I chose. Well, they fell into this trap of thinking, yeah, we were chosen, so everybody else is outside. They had gone so far as to take foreigners and eunuchs and say, you're not welcome in our assembly, and you are not allowed to offer burnt offerings or sacrifices. God says, wait a minute. Take a look at the scripture you have in front of you there. What does he say? Let no foreigner say that I'm not welcome in the assembly. Let no eunuch say that I'm a dry tree. God says, if one of those foreigners or one of those eunuchs comes to you and comes into my house, and they are willing to profess that I am God, and they are willing to follow my laws and decrees, then you know what? I say that they are acceptable. And he says, if I say they're acceptable, you need to accept them. You need to accept them. Because if I say they're acceptable, that foreigner can come into my house and he is allowed. I give him permission. If he professes me as God, I give him permission to offer sacrifices on my altar. It's not your altar, it's my altar, and I say it's acceptable. I say he's welcome to come in and offer burnt offerings, because that'll be an aroma pleasing to me. He said, and as far as the eunuch goes, if he's willing to follow me, I will bless him with a memorial name. You know, in Hebrew, when that word is used, what it's talking about is it means that God says, I am going to bless that person with many, many, many more generations of their family. Now, we know technically, physically, that is not possible with a eunuch. They are not able to procreate or have children. But God says, if they profess me, I will ensure that they have a line of people that follow them from their own family. Now, I said this last week, but it's true here. How many of you can understand what that means to have generation after generation of family members? We have that here in our church. We have at least 4 generations of some families right here in this church right now. What a tremendous blessing. And God says, I'm doing that all because I want everyone in the world to know through you that when they come to my house, that it is a house of prayer for all nations. ALL, all nations. Okay? I understand that, Pastor Greg. That's great. But let's face it. You know, we really don't have foreigners, and we really don't have too many eunuchs coming into the service today. So how does that really apply to us today? You know, one of the problems I think that we fall into as modern-day Christians is we look at passages like this, and we see that they are where? Are they in the Old Testament or the New Testament? This one is in the Old Testament. So we equate that word old with meaning it's antiquated. It's no longer applicable. It really doesn't apply to us because we're Christians, Pastor Greg. Jesus Christ came. He was the fulfillment. So now, really, what's really most important is the New Testament. We really don't need to think about that because he was talking about the people remaining obedient, and that was righteous acts. And as Christians, we're told we don't need to do righteous acts. That's not what's going to save us. That's true. That's true. And if you're saying some of that stuff, congratulations. You have been listening on Sunday mornings, and you've been listening in Sunday school and in Bible classes. The problem with that is that that's not 100% true. Because when Christ came, Christ didn't come and abolish the law. Jesus did not abolish the law. He came as the complete fulfillment to the law. And if you fulfill something, that means that it is forever joined together. Therefore, the lessons that are in the Old Testament are equally as applicable and equally as important for us to understand as whatever is in the New Testament. So when God talks about the covenant with the people of the Old Testament, he's also talking to you and I about the covenant in Jesus Christ. We have to remain obedient to that covenant. What is that? Jesus taught us that we need to be obedient to God. We need to stay in a right relationship with him. We need to be people of prayer. We need to be people in his word. And we need to try and model what Christ modeled. Well, if Christ was the fulfillment of the law, then we need to be following that same guideline.